Dr. Fauci, who I love and I can't hear enough from, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's been running the National Institute of Health, infectious diseases wing, I guess, since 1984. He chatted with the New York Times, and he thinks it's doubtful that we're going to see any sports of any meaning in 2020. And I don't know if he says this sort of stuff right now to get everybody on the stick to start testing more than we are. And getting antibodies tested more than we are, and getting it out there so people know where to go. And this is, this is what's going to have to be done in order to get sports going in 2020 is athletes are going to have to be willing to be quarantined for 3 to 4 weeks. If baseball's plan to get back, and we'll talk about this in a second, by late June, early July is going to happen, then players are going to have to be starting to quarantine themselves by the middle of next month. We're about 2-3 weeks away from the fail-safe point of these guys, and also men and women who are in front offices and who have to put games on. They're going to have to all go in quarantine and not leave their house. They can't even go. They can't run the risk of going anywhere, I would imagine. And they're going to have to be tested, and they're going to have to get a ton of tests. And we're all, as fans, going to have to be excited about the fact that if you can't get tested for coronavirus, you think you might have symptoms, but somebody's telling you, well, you're not symptomatic enough, or you're worried that you're one of the asymptomatic people and don't want to spread it around. You're like, well, you don't have symptoms, so you can't get a test. And then you're reading about your favorite backup right fielder getting a test, or you're reading about some AAA guy. That's the other thing, too, is you're going to have to quarantine AAA people for baseball because these guys are going to have to get called up if somebody gets hurt playing the game, right? So are you going to quarantine you're going to have to quarantine your entire 40-man roster? You're going to have to quarantine, maybe you have to name 20 others to go on your 40. You're going to have to expand to a 60-man roster, and you have to quarantine those guys too? And they're going to be what? Sitting at home, getting paid because they're quarantining, and then being called up? Or do you have to go with is it a war of attrition that somebody's pitching staff goes down and suddenly you can't fill out a roster in baseball? I mean, your head will explode about all this stuff. And I have to bring up the reality of it before I delve into the possible fantasy of it that it's going to happen. But will players be willing to do that? What if somebody breaks curfew? What if somebody breaks that bubble? Screw it. I just had to go out. I'm in an area where bars are open because governors allow it, or governors supersede some local mayor's order that bars can't be open. Then what happens? You got to trust everybody. I mean, everything would have to work perfectly, again, under the current construct of what's going on in the world. I don't mean to bum everybody out, but that's literally what's happening right here. And I when I saw Bob Nightingale's USA Today report yesterday, I was excited because I'm like, is it possible? Because he's quoting the optimism of front office executives that baseball, according to Bob Nightingale of USA Today, who's one of the best baseball reporters out there, that baseball by the end of June and no later than July 2nd will come back with all 30 teams split into 3 divisions. 3, I guess, not leagues or divisions, I guess you could call them, 10 in each.
Yeah, 3 divisions of 10.
And so American and National League would go away, and you'd have to be as geographically sound as possible, although I do see the Texas teams in the West, not the Central. But according to Bob Nightingale, there would be 3 divisions split up by 10 teams each, and that at a certain point, it's possible that these teams all play in their home stadiums, albeit with no fans to start. But by the end of the year, you could have a handful, like you could have people socially distant in in the crowd. If people are feeling up and safe for going. That's the other thing. You can open up movie theaters all you want. Who's going to raise their hand and say, I'm taking my kids to go in an enclosed area and trusting that everybody else is healthy? You know, I mean, that's the issue is you can talk about reopening society all you want. It's just society's got to want to be reopened and go. But anyway, should I keep grounding myself in the non-reality? Or, I mean, you tell me. As a host of a show like this, I want to talk about this as much as possible. And we have been talking football like it's coming, and it's great. But this is the one that's right around the corner.
Right, but football's not until September.
Hoops could be right even closer around the corner. And that's part of the reason why we've got Woj on Friday's show, because May 1st is when the NBA is supposedly told some of the teams in areas with relaxed rules of an open society, if you're allowed to go to your team facility, go. If the governor of your state says you can go to a team facility, if the mayor of your city says you can go to a team facility, go, you're open. That's on Friday. We'll see how many NBA teams do that. But here's the realignment structure. You ready for this, Christopher?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
The East would be the Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Nationals, Orioles, Phillies, Pirates, Blue Jays, Rays, and Marlins.
Okay, that makes sense.
So now the Rays and the Marlins would pretty much have to start the season playing each other, right? Right? Like a 20-game series, unless they want to get on a bus and they got to go, or the team plane is totally clean. And again, the idea is these players and the staffs of the teams would be essentially kept in their own bubble world.
Right.
Where they're away, they're tested, they're negative, they're not positive, and they're totally removed from everybody else. And they can be a traveling show, I guess, in a team plane that has been cleaned, disinfected. The crew has been quarantined. I mean, this would all have to be done in advance, right? Unless the first couple months does start in the state of Florida and these games are played in their spring training facilities. Yeah, because again, if it's in front of no fans, right? And so it's easy to get on a bus and get around. Right. And then eventually you could maybe expand to, okay, Yankees and Mets play each other, and then they can go up the turnpike to Boston or down the Jersey turnpike to Philly, right? The Nats, Baltimore, Philly, and they're right around there.
Toronto might be a different story.
Well, I know. You'd have to, and then now you're international. The border's closed.
Right.
The border's literally closed right now for ground transport across the border. In the Central, Cubs, White Sox, Brewers, Cardinals, Royals, Reds, Indians, Twins, Braves, Tigers. Braves. Yep.
Kind of got a job there.
You think they put the Braves in? I mean, what are you going to do, man? You got to have 10 each. There's going to be some geographically unsound locations.
Yeah. I guess Pittsburgh could have been Central.
And then the West, Dodgers, Angels, Giants, Athletics, Padres, Diamondbacks, Rockies, Mariners, and then here are the two Texas teams, Rangers and Astros.
That works.
Hey, man.
So, for playoff purposes,
playoff purposes, I have no idea.
I don't think that's been hashed out yet, but what? A division leader, 2 wild cards? So we're taking
9.
Taking 9 playoff teams?
And then you do what? Then you have 8 versus 1, or the 1 versus 2 gets a bye or something. I don't know. Yeah. And then union officials and baseball have to apparently engage, because owners are saying, if we do this, we're not paying you the players the full freight, certainly if there's no gate. And there's got to be some sort of sliding scale based on the gate and what they pay players. Look, it's all negotiable. It's all negotiable. It's all negotiable. The question is what's non-negotiable to players? I mean, some guys might be like, screw that. I'm not going to quarantine for a month. I got a wife and kids. What am I going to tell my wife and kids goodbye? Like this is a tour duty? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the way I think that it's being looked at by baseball and hey, like, do you want to get paid? Do you want to be like, we need to have a season? We need to do this. So unfortunately, yeah. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.